It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're listening, whenever you're watching, I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the Holiday Inn and all their properties. Hey, you got to travel someplace? You need to stay somewhere? Make sure you stay at a Holiday Inn property. My favorites, Holiday Inn Resorts, and, of course, the Holiday Inn Express, because I always feel, so much smarter after I sleep there. I can give you another reason why you should stay at a Holiday Inn property, because I'll get you a discount. It's all about the money. Come on. You know what they say. It's not about the money. It's about the money. When they say it's not about the money, it's about the money. So I'll get you some savings off your next stay at a Holiday Inn. Just use our toll-free number, 844-603-0364, 844-603-0364. Or if you're like me, can't remember numbers, just visit the website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the banner. You get the same discount. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting Tom Molyneux's story told. Wait, you want to get a signed copy? Just visit the website, BillyCBoxing.com, and just click on the book. You want more than one copy? Then no problem. Drop me an email. I'll hook you up with special pricing. Billy at Talkin' Boxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. I want to give a shout out to my man Kenny from Kenny Bears. It's the only stuff I put. I'm like addicted. I don't know what he put in it, but it's some great stuff. Barbecue rub. It's not just a barbecue rub because I put it on everything. You want to get yourself a bottle, visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the banner. And if you need more information, just visit their website, SouthernGourmetSpice.com. Coming up a little bit later, we got Dax Kahn. He's going to join us and give us his thoughts on the fights from this weekend. Also, I got some emails to read. We are not doing a live show tomorrow, so a little programming note. But today I want to talk mostly about the fights from this weekend. We'll start it off with Terence Crawford winning the WBO World Welterweight title from Jeff Horn. Stopped him at 2 minutes and 33 seconds of the ninth round in what exactly a fight that was exactly like I thought it would be. I called it. Terence Crawford, listen, we talk about pound for pound and all of that, right? But let's make no mistake. Terence Crawford is the one of the examples. I would say that him and Vasily Lomachenko right now are the two pound for pound fighters, neck and neck at number one. And the truth of the matter is both although their styles are slightly different, both of these guys represent the true sweet science. The sweet science, boys and girls, is when you hit your opponent and can't be hit, but when you're still in a position to inflict damage on your opponent again. It doesn't mean you avoid a punch and run to the other end of the ring. That's not the sweet science. What Terence Crawford did against Jeff Horn on Saturday night is the sweet science. Just like Vasily Lomachenko, what he does is the sweet science. Terence Crawford has a mean streak. He knows how to finish you off. And the referee in this fight stopped the fight. There's a lot of similarities between this fight with Terence Crawford and Jeff Horn, as was the case when Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao for Manny Pacquiao's title when they fought. The difference here is that when Terence Crawford got his man in trouble, he did not take his foot off the gas, went out and got him in more trouble, prompting the referee to stop the fight. What Manny Pacquiao did was got him in trouble. You could make a good case that the fight should have been stopped. It was not, and the fish got let off the hook, so to speak. Terence Crawford did not let Jeff Horn get away. He finished him off, pummeled him. He is a fast guy, an accurate puncher. He's got that mean streak, and Terence Crawford has enough pop behind his punches to get the job done. We all want to see him fight Errol Spence Jr., but interesting comparison was made by Bob Arum. We all know, what you want to think of Bob Arum at this point. But he says he's the same, if not better, than Sugar Ray Leonard. Interesting. Joining me right now to get his thoughts on the fight is Sal Rocky Senecola. Before you give me your thoughts on the fight, is it fair to make that comparison between Terence Crawford and Sugar Ray Leonard, even though Crawford's still, he's still in the early stages of his career. He's got a long way to go.
Yeah, he's got a long way to go. I think it was a little premature on Bob Arum's part, but surely it was something that maybe he would hope to see. But let me tell you something. You know, and I know, a very special fighter comes along every so often. And Sugar Ray Leonard was one of those very, very special fighters that came up from the 76 Olympic team and had a stellar career and was a world beater and fought hard, lost some big fights, but he won a lot of big fights. And his style, his grace, the performances that he had in the ring and the things that he would do and the comeback from behind victories. I mean, he displayed, the heart of a champion and the skills set level of a champion. And guess what? I wasn't one of the same time current fans of Sugar Ray Leonard. I only learned to respect and appreciate him more and more and more of how truly special of a fighter he really was, even after his retirement. So, yes, my hats off, and I think it's a little premature on Bob Arum's part, but hey, we're all hopeful and see. But I think Terence Crawford is a very, very special fighter, and he can do a lot. And I do agree with you. Along with Vasily Lomachenko, I think Terence Crawford is one of the best pound for pound out there today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, between the number one and number two spot, those two guys, I wouldn't argue with either one being in the number one spot. I really wouldn't. Both of them have similar tendencies. Their styles are slightly different. Vasily Lomachenko, has a bit more ring generalship control. He controls the ring a little more. But then again, Crawford doesn't let his guy off the hook, man, and he showed it again.
No, he didn't.
And, what I like about Terence Crawford is that, and the same thing with Vasily. I don't mean to keep comparing it to Vasily. Vasily didn't fight, so let's just try to focus on Terence. But the thing about Crawford is that he clearly has a mean streak. And when he gets going, Sal, he doesn't mind to throw in that mean streak during the fight. It almost seems like he enjoys punishing his opponents because he systematically breaks them down the way good fighters do. And I don't know. This guy he seems to be getting better and better. And by the way, he didn't look that big. Jeff Horn looked way bigger than him, I thought, when they were standing next to each other, fighting in the ring. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I thought the same. And, Jeff Horn, we saw him out against Manny Pacquiao. He looked a lot bigger. But against Terence Crawford, I think he looked bigger, but he didn't look all that big. And, it was you could tell from the get-go. I mean, I was just so happy that, it was exactly what we saw it was going to be. I mean, Jeff Horn rose to the occasion. He beat an aging and smaller Manny Pacquiao. I give him that credit, but that was probably the best Jeff Horn we are ever going to see. And Terence Crawford knew that, and a lot of people knew that, and Terence Crawford made sure that he was going to establish himself as the victor. So, it was a good fight.
Well, again, the big difference between the two fights, when we're talking about Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao, is that Jeff Horn, and I agree with you, Jeff Horn, we're seeing the best Jeff Horn. His style wears opponents down. He's got a great chin. He weathers the storm. He's got a lot of heart. Skill set, not so much. I mean, he throws his punches and in bunches. He moves forward. But moving forward and throwing a lot of punches sometimes doesn't work against the elite fighters because they can avoid or at least avoid getting punched, straight on, so to speak, flush, and then counterpunch. And he leaves himself wide open. His defense isn't that great. I think what we saw was a clear indication. And if you want to leave aging out of it, the difference between Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao, at least against Jeff Horn, was that Terence Crawford did not take his foot off the gas. After his feel-out round, he went in for the kill and continued to go for the kill, whereas Manny Pacquiao felt that the fight was over after that one round where he had him in all kinds of trouble, and then that was it. He seemingly, didn't want to beat him up versus Terence Crawford, who enjoys beating up his opponents.
Well, that's a good point. And like you said, it's always good to have a little mean streak in you when to pull it out when you can, and he certainly did. And, big difference between Manny Pacquiao and Terence Crawford against Jeff Horn.
Some other fights that we'll talk about. Another really exciting fight. Leo Santa Cruz, retained his title, or actually now became the all-out WBA champion. Because if you recall, the WBA is such a ridiculous outfit. I mean, Leo Santa Cruz was the super world featherweight champion for the WBA. And Abner Mares was the regular old WBA world featherweight champion. So now at the end, Leo Santa Cruz won a unanimous decision, improving to 35 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw with 19 knockouts when he won a unanimous decision over Abner Mares Saturday night. Mares drops the 3rd fight of his career. He's now 31-3 with a draw with 15 knockouts. Talk about a fight that was action-packed from beginning to end. I mean, this fight, there was no such thing as a feeling out round. The one thing I noticed, Santa Cruz, listen, no one is a bigger fan of Leo Santa Cruz than me, Sal, but you know what I'm going to say. That little thing that he does with the glove, I'm telling you, I know it's a nervous thing or just a habit or whatever. It slows him down for delivering his punches, or at least the accuracy. And then, halfway through the fight, I noticed another one he developed. He's taking the other hand and he's tapping his belt line with it. So now here's a guy that's got 2, in baseball you'd call it a hitch in your swing or something. This guy's got not 1 but 2 hitches in his punching output. And the thing is that, I mean, listen, he's fought elite fighters, Santa Cruz had, and obviously he's come out on top. And Abner Mares is no slouch. But Sal, I mean, obviously they tried to break it. I mean, no, it's not like nobody has noticed this, but I think it's slowing this guy down with his reaction time. In the middle of spinning that glove just back and forth, then he wants to let a punch go, sees an opening or something. he's got to stop that movement of his hand. I don't know. I don't know how. Honestly, I don't know how he's gone this far with that kind of a hitch in his punch. What was your thoughts on the fight? And did you see the new one with the tapping of the belt line?
A little tapping of the belt line. Hey, maybe he thinks it's a distraction. I don't know. You never know what he might be doing or thinking. But, the bottom line is, your hand's got to be in a position to deliver a punch in the instant. Bam. And, maybe he feels doing this and then bam, he can do that. He can open it up and deliver. The reality of it is, he's got to be told that, hey, you're doing something and it could be a distraction or it could be nullifying your speed and getting punches off and being in a position for defense. So, it's worked for him thus far. But, we'll see. But the fight itself was a great fight. It was a war. And, afterwards, listening to both fighters in the interview, hey, they had the best and the utmost respect for each other. And whether you wanted to agree with everything Abner Mares said or not, what a gentleman he really was. And, does a fight call for maybe a third fight? Yeah, maybe. But there's other fish to fry right now, I'm sure, that Leo Santa Cruz is going to want to get in the ring with. But I'll tell you what, can't take it away from Abner Mares. He fought his heart out, and it was a close fight. He was in the fight the whole time. But, it was the momentum and the shifting and everything else. Just Leo Santa Cruz delivered and did what he had to do to outscore his opponent.
The thing that I thought Mares was doing well was he was landing seemingly the harder punches.
Yes, he was.
I thought Santa Cruz, Santa Cruz is a smarter fighter than I think people give him credit for. And the reason why I say that is because he's a brawler at heart. I mean, let's face it. The guy loves it. He smiles. When you nail him, he wants more. It's like, please, sir, may I have another? But the truth of the matter is he listens to his pops in the corner. His father's the trainer, and his father says basically during the fight, hey, use your arm reach, use your jab. You don't have to brawl with this guy. You're going to win this fight by using the distance correctly, and landing a jab and following it with rights. And he was landing an uppercut too during the fight, and that's exactly how he won this fight. When Mares moved in close, he didn't. Yeah, but he didn't seem effective when he was in close, even though he landed some punches. But the other thing I noticed about Leo Santa Cruz in this fight, Sal, was that most fighters, when they're moving forward, have a tendency to either jab the air or get caught because they're not able to do two things at once. The two things I'm referring to is maintaining the safe distance as you're moving forward, and he was doing that effectively when he was not inside brawling. And one of the commentators, one of the good commentators, so it must have been Steve Farhood or Paulie Malignaggi or, of course, Al Bernstein, because it couldn't have possibly been an other idiot that is the worst commentator in the sport. But they noticed it too. And, that's not that easy to do, is it, Sal? To be moving forward and maintaining a safe distance while you're in range to connect with your opponent.
Well, you're trying to close in. When you're moving forward, you're definitely trying to close the distance between your opponent and yourself. And to be in a position and to move your head, your hands, keep up there defensively and work your way in with that jab or do some feints. And that's what I like to see a little bit more, the art of feinting. I don't see it as effective or as being utilized by a lot of the fighters as much as it was in my generation. But they're still out there, and I'll tell you what. But, yeah, effectively moving, closing the distance between your opponent and yourself and going forward and slipping punches and getting in there and getting the distance to deliver your right, your left, your hook, uppercut, whatever it could be. You're constantly striving for that. So when you working your way in, cutting the ring off, hopefully, will help you make your job a little easier.
No, but my point is when you're moving forward, it's harder to maintain the distance because you're moving forward, and it's almost like a reactionary point because you're moving forward. Now, you don't know what your opponent's going to do. Is he going to move to his side? Is he going to come at you? Is he going to move forward to you? So all of a sudden you're right there. Is he going to move backwards? So I mean, there's a lot of things that normally take place before a fighter that's being aggressive, so to speak, moving forward, is at the right distance to be safe for that fighter I'm talking about. In this case, Leo Santa Cruz had the height and reach advantage, but he just seemed to control that distance regardless whether he was, in the center of the ring, whether he was moving forward, or whether they were fighting inside. And I give him credit for that because it's not easy to do, is my point.
Right, but you're looking with these two fighters both willing and wanting to engage because they both equally thought they would oust the other one once inside. So you had the as I use the term, ebb and flow, and it looked like, as long as you're moving forward and being in a position, that's the whole thing. You got to have your cat-like reflexes because you're going to deliver and you're going to receive. So you got to be defensively ready in the pocket and shoot it. But the bottom line is you're wanting to engage and get closer to that opponent and maintain a good distance where you are not going to get too close to crowd your punches and you're not going to be too far away to miss your punches. So it is the sweet spot, if you will. And good fighters know how to work their way in, to deliver those shots and to slip the other punches coming in. And you do the same thing. The guy comes forward, you step back, boom, you deliver. You work your way in, you cut the ring off. It's a real neat. You had two artists out there doing that and both wanting to establish their distance on both planes. Great fight, great heart, and even Abner Mares, I had to give him credit. What a good sportsman! I mean, these were two gentlemen, two sportsmen, and both humbled by what they encountered with each other in the ring. So I thought it was a good display across the board.
The co-main event that was broadcast on the Showtime broadcast, the WBC junior middleweight champ Jermell Charlo improved to 31-0 with 15 knockouts when he scored a 12-round majority decision over former world champion Austin Trout. Trout drops to 31 and 5 with 17 knockouts. I'm sorry. I thought that the Charlo brothers, and I say this plurally because they're both very similar. I think they're very limited with skills. I think that both of these guys have a lot of punching power, and when they engage, they inflict damage on their opponents, but really they haven't fought young top opponents like themselves yet. Jermell Charlo was successful in beating Austin Trout, and his brother this Saturday, Jermell Charlo, was also successful. But the one thing I got to point out is Austin Trout is not the same fighter that he was when he was a world champion. And, with the talk that the Jermell Charlo was saying, how he's going to knock him out, he's going to do this, he couldn't knock him out. And he was fighting in spurts. And when he did fight aggressively, he seemingly hurt Trout. But when he wasn't, he was letting Trout dictate the pace, jabbing him and moving around, and he didn't know how to cut the ring off. This is an example, and both of these guys are an example why you need to up your level of opposition on the way up, not while you're a champion. I'm just not impressed with either of the Charlo brothers, and not that Jermell deserves any airtime here because Jermell was the one that fought. But Jermell Charlo is talking like every middleweight is afraid of him. And we all saw the Danny Jacobs, interaction. The Charlo brothers were awfully quiet when somebody stands in their face. But when they're all by themselves behind a camera where there's one guy filming them, they're awfully tough. Charlo improved to 31-0. He moves on. Impressive win in a sense, but I'm not impressed. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, but it was an impressive win. I mean, he did what he had to. He was dominant throughout the fight, I thought. He had a couple of 10-8 rounds, and he kind of let Austin Trout off the hook a few times. I think what you just said, when he turned it on and he wanted to engage and he wanted to throw combinations, he was effective in doing that. And Austin Trout, to his credit, showed some signs and some glimpse of what he was capable of doing, but he never really got the momentum or put it together. And that's what hurt him, and that's why the score was what it was.
The next fight we're going to talk about is the heavyweight comeback of Tyson Fury. But we will do that as soon as we get back from this break.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like this.
When the commentator said that was one punch, one bingo punch. I said, "Hey, that's my word, bingo." So I got excited about that. And for Fury to just quit or have his corner thrown in the towel and quit, I mean, he wasn't hurt, he wasn't this and that, and just like I said, it is what we paid to see, and or what some people paid to see, and it was a farce more than a fight.
Yeah, it was a joke. It
was
was
a joke. From the whole way in, picking up. First of all, you don't disrespect your opponent. You want to go into the World Federal Wrestling, whatever it is, and you want to pick up your opponent and put on a show and do it. Get out. But you know what? You lack of respect right there. I would have been throwing punches and saying, "What the hell you think you're doing, you big goof?"
Well, this is how boxing.
I'm just saying, I would have been pissed.
This is how boxing is become.
It is.
This is why I'm losing interest, Sal, because it's a joke. It's a joke.
And the guy goes along with it, like, hey, I know I'm here for the payday. Yeah, make it obvious. Sure, you quit in round 4. You don't come back out for round 5. You didn't get hurt that I saw.
Well, listen, the way that, you watch the Showtime broadcast and you're listening to that idiot doing all his crazy, Moralo, Ronaldo, whatever the hell his name is, with all his accolades and the way he describes things. It's a joke.
Yeah, but he sells the fight too. He markets it. He sells it. I give him credit.
Please. I don't give him any credit. I don't give him any credit because he ruins the broadcast. He ruins it. Okay, he's so busy thinking about what he's going to say and how he's going to say it that there's a simple way of calling fights, and that is to call the fight as if what's happening in front of you. What's happening in front of you. You know what I mean? So, whatever. Don't get me started on him because he's the worst. He's the worst commentator I have ever seen in boxing. In boxing,
to me, he's not the worst. I kind of
who's worse than him? Who's worse than him? Who's worse than him? Tell me. Name somebody. Give me a name. Who's worse than him?
Can't think of him.
Exactly. You can't. Because Mario Ronaldo is the worst. Okay, he's got a great team with Al Bernstein and Paulie Malignaggi, and he brings those guys down. Boxing shouldn't be the WWE. It should not be the WWE. I'm sorry. It shouldn't. It should be more of a serious sport, and it's being made we're being made fools of by the powers that be in this sport, and we are developing a fan base that is following it like it's WWE. You wonder why? I am fastly losing interest in this sport and a lot of the fans. How about that? Another fight on this card. Let me get rid of these. Another fight on the card. The WBO junior welterweight title switched hands. Maurice Hooker improved to 24-0 with 3 draws when he won a split decision over Terry Flanagan, who loses for the first time in his career. It was a close fight, and I think that if Flanagan didn't suffer the cut, that he would have won this fight. I think that the judges were swayed by the blood down his face. That's my thoughts. And last night there was some heavyweight fights that took place on Fox, and Travis Kaufman, a fraud of a heavyweight. I mean, he improved to 32-2 with 23 knockouts. He scored a 10-round majority decision, struggled over late substitute Scott Alexander. Remember, he was supposed to fight 175-year-old Antonio Tarver, who wouldn't get licensed because of his age. Also on that card, Gerald Washington improved to 19 wins, 2 losses, and a draw when he won a unanimous decision over Wes Nofire, who had only lost 1 fight going into that one last night. He drops to 20-12. And Michael Hunter improved to 14-1 when he scored a fifth-round knockout over Lago Calzad, who drops to 26-3. Speaking of heavyweights, we got the heavyweight roundup on the undercard of the Tyson Fury fight at the in the UK. Nathan Gorman improved to 13-0 by stopping Sean Turner via a TKO in the 3rd round of a scheduled 10. Sean Turner drops to 12-3. Alex Dickinson improved to 6-0 when he knocked out David Howe in the 4th and final round of their fight. Howe drops to 14-10. In Argentina, Sergio Benjamin Vega improved to 1-0, making his pro debut a successful one when he won a 4-round unanimous decision over Nahul Fabian Palacios, who drops to 1-3. In Germany, Filip Hrgovic improved to 5-0 when he stopped Filberto Tovar in the 4th of a scheduled 10-round fight. Tovar was undefeated going into this fight. He was 9-0. He's now 9-1. Hrgovic is a guy to keep an eye on for sure. Also in Germany, Evgenios Lazardus improved to 13-3 when he won an 8-round split decision over Gabriel Ingjuima, who drops to 8-6. In Italy, the hometown favorite Fabio Piazza didn't do too well. Seaman Levin improved to 6-2 when he won a 6-round decision over Fabio Piazza, who drops to 5-1. In New Zealand, David Light improved to 5-0 when he stopped Thomas Russell in the third of a scheduled 6-round fight. Russell drops to 0-5. And on Friday in Argentina, a lot of fights in Argentina this weekend. Ariel Esteban Barcomonte improved to 7-1 when he stopped Esteban Hillman Tabari in the third of an 8-round fight. Tabari drops to 40 wins, 23 losses, and a couple of draws. Also in Argentina, Leandro Daniel Robuti improved to 5-3 when he won a 4-round majority decision over Kevin Nicolas Espinola, who dropped to 2-1. And Friday in Illinois, Tervel Pulov improved to 11-0 when he stopped Armando Ancona in the first of a scheduled 8-round fight. Ancona drops to 8 wins, 8 losses, and a couple of draws. That wraps up the fights for the weekend. We're going to take a short break. Hopefully we won't lose power this time. And when we come back, we'll get Dax Kahn's thoughts on the fights. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology used to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Hologram USA presents a proposal to all investors. Hologram USA is an innovative 3-dimensional patented technology that shifted the paradigm in media technology. Our patented hologram technology that brought you Tupac and Coachella, Whitney Houston, Billie Holiday, and many more is integrating live performances to bring your favorite past and present entertainers beyond your imagination. Invest in the patented technology before the banks scoop up all the stock. Invest in Hologram USA today. Hologram USA Flagship Theater, located on Hollywood Boulevard's Walk of Fame, is the first of many to come. Call now to be part of the explosive growth. Pick up the phone. Dial the number on your screen now. Invest in Hologram USA today. Call the number on your screen right now to learn about this investment opportunity.
Call 800-624-1673. 800-624-1673. Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C, damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. You know, the Tyson Fury fight, the joke of it all is he's talking to the fan. You know, he was trying to, in my opinion, he was doing the best copycat of a Muhammad Ali type thing, talking to the fans. You know, he did his little roundhouse, little, windmill type thing, with his opponent sitting there just, ready to take it. It was a total joke, all right? And when a guy says stuff like, I could beat Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder with one hand tied behind my back, I know what people can say. Oh, he's just promoting it. Oh, he's just trying to make it. Yeah, I get it. But it's stupid to even say, because if you guys don't think that he looks like a fool by saying stuff like that, and then his performance doesn't speak for itself. We look at Terence Crawford. His performance spoke for itself. There's no need for him to do anything else. Santa Cruz and Abner Maris, their performances spoke for themselves. They don't have to try to sugarcoat it or try to convince you that you're watching something different than you're actually seeing. If Tyson Fury really wants a real fight and thinks that he can beat one of the two top heavyweights in the world today, then my suggestion is a fast track to a heavyweight title would be a fight and a win over Luis Ortiz. How about that? We're going to see Tyson Fury fight another Sarifi come next. You watch it. Joining me right now to get his thoughts on the fights from this weekend is Dax Kahn. Good morning, Dax.
Good morning, Bill. Riled up on a Monday, aren't you?
I'm getting you know what? It's really hard. Dax, nobody talks about boxing more with me off air than you. And I got news for you. I am so sick of this sport. Going from last week with the whole BS with Canelo and Triple G, then the IBF stripping Triple G, then Triple G going to go talking with Canelo again. We all know that fight's going to be made because Canelo can't make as much money fighting even Daniel Jacobs or Billy Joe Saunders as he could with Triple G. So it's a joke. The boxing fan is the only fan in professional sports that gets jerked around like a yo-yo than any other professional sport. The boxing fan is fleeced and robbed every step of the way. Let's start off with the Fury fight, Dax. What was your impression of that comical? It really looked like a Three Stooges skit or something. It was a joke.
Well, as me and Sal were talking before the show started again, I can understand the frustration of it because of the way it was presented to us. Even during the fight, it was a comedy skit. It generally was. But, this was an event, and I do stress event. In my opinion, the main event in terms of fights on that card was the Terry Flanagan-Maurice Hooker junior welterweight title fight. But in terms of Tyson Fury, even in the lead-up, the weigh-ins and the press conferences, they're hugging, they're dancing, literally slow dancing. Tyson Fury had Safari in his hands. He was cradling him. So I don't know what people were expecting. Did you expect after watching this to go in there and actually see some sort of all-out fight? Safari actually, you said it perfectly, or Sal earlier said it perfectly. The guy was just there to get a payday. He's not even the best of the Safari brothers. His brother Nuri, who's a little bit older, a little bit smaller, is actually the better of the fighters. He's faced top cruiserweights. There was really no trash talk leading up to this about Safari that you see from Tyson Fury. More or less, it was an event, and it was a pitiful event. It was a little bit 1-2 steps below a WWE event. But, I don't think in any way that you can come up and say, I thought this was going to be a legitimate contest. If that's the case, that is why boxing fans are so easily sold and so easily fleeced, because you would think that something like this leading up to and how it was presented was going to actually be a legitimate fight. I don't think Tyson Fury was actually able to get into the top shape that he said he was going to, and that's why they kind of chose this opponent rather than some guy who was even ranked in the top 20, 25. Safari isn't even ranked in the top 50 at cruiserweight, so that tells you, what caliber fighter he is.
I never, wait a minute. I never once thought that it was going to be a challenging fight. But what I was expecting to see, and I'll be honest, I was expecting to see something from Tyson Fury. I saw a pitiful performance from a guy that was fighting a very, an opponent that was accommodating, a very accommodating opponent. His jabs were sloppy. His movement was sloppy. He seemed uncoordinated in the ring. You could say, well, he was out of the ring for 3 years, et cetera, et cetera. But come on, show me something that's going to justify all the trash talk that he's been doing. And I get it. I'm a Tyson Fury fan, and I get it that he's funny. He thinks this is his way of humor. It's just like singing and all this other crap. But he didn't do anything to suggest that he's relative in the heavyweight division, even if he improves. That's what I saw. What about you?
No, I didn't. There's nothing in this fight that we've seen where it says Tyson Fury's ready, even in his next 2 or 3 fights, to step in there against these top 10 guys. But as aggravating as it is, and I'm not disputing that fact, and I'm not condoning the way this went down, even in the pre-fight, but what I'm stating is that, if you really, not you personally, anybody who thought that they were going to go in there and actually see Tyson Fury demonstrate, after my layoff, look what I can do. Tyson Fury, wasn't even just a couple weeks ago, he was really out of shape. Whether or not he lost that weight is one thing, but, the cardio and so on. So he's not ready to go in there and take on a viable challenge or even be pushed. One thing I have noticed about Tyson Fury in the past, and, he knows when he needs to buy time. We've seen that with the Klitschko fights. I remember speaking to Tyson Fury prior to the Steve Cunningham fight, where Tyson Fury said, I'm going to chase Vladimir Klitschko down to the ends of the earth. And then he threw in something really fast. He said, when I'm ready. Against Steve Cunningham, early on, he was dropped, and then, Steve was not able to hurt him. So Tyson Fury, again, he put on a show during that fight. He's raising his hands up, against guys like Vinny Matalone. You see a different version of Tyson Fury. Against Derek Chisora in the rematch, you see a different version of Tyson Fury. So, Tyson Fury is smart, yet he's annoying at the same time. He's a good showman. He's more of a P.T. Barnum of boxing rather than a Muhammad Ali type showman of boxing. But, if Tyson Fury should get himself in shape, Tyson Fury should be taken seriously. He's proven that in the past, but whether or not he does, time can only tell that. But as of right now, no, Tyson Fury is not somebody who's relative. You mentioned Tyson Fury maybe against the Luis Ortiz. That's a very possible fight in his, maybe his next fight or the one after, considering that, the Luis Ortiz against Dillian White fight never materialized. Lucas Brown has been very vocal lately that Ricky Hatton is not returning his phone call, so Lucas Brown is out of the picture as an opponent. And did you catch last night where Dominic Breazeale was very vocal about the fact that he's Deontay Wilder's mandatory? So, that kind of telling me that Deontay Wilder against Anthony Joshua isn't going to happen anytime soon. So Tyson Fury, more or less, despite what happened this weekend, has suddenly become a major player inside this sport. And if even if he doesn't face a top name, right now it's the Tyson Fury show until something more worthy materializes.
Let's talk about a real fight real quick. Terence Crawford beat Jeff Horn to win his title. What was your thoughts on that fight?
Well, I have to say this first. Jeff Horn is one tough Aussie hombre. The fight turned out as expected, but, let's give this guy some credit. You mentioned Vasyl Lomachenko earlier. We've seen a lot of guys who are a lot more skilled, a lot more accomplished than Jeff Horn quit in fights, and they were taking a lot less punishment than Jeff Horn was. But Horn stayed in there like a champion to the end. Outside of Errol Spence, I feel comfortable that Terence Crawford does the same to every fighter at 147 pounds. He went in there, he boxed brilliantly. He showed that he does have power at 147 pounds. Jeff Horn is not a small fighter. Terence Crawford showed that, not only is he an offensive, but he's a defensive fighter. He was able to take a few punches from Jeff Horn. The only other guy that I see in that division giving Terence Crawford a really hard time is Sean Porter. And not that Sean Porter is in the same caliber as Terence Crawford in terms of skill-wise, but Sean Porter fights ugly. We've never seen Terence Crawford really in an ugly fight. So, how would Terence Crawford react to something like that? I'm not really sure. I do think he needs a fight or two against somebody like a Sean Porter who can go in there and pressure him a little bit, and we can actually see how he takes some sustained punishment from a 147-pound fighter. But as of what we've seen on Saturday night against Jeff Horn, Terence Crawford has officially arrived in the 147-pound division. I would hate to see him against in the unification bout against Errol Spence Jr. happen next. Maybe even 2 or 3 fights. I would actually like to see that one. Rare as you say it, I'd like to see that one actually marinate and see both those guys get a few more names underneath them, whether or not it's a Danny Garcia or Sean Porter or possibly a Keith Thurman when he comes back, and then have those guys fight each other, and we would actually have the biggest and most relevant fight at 147 pounds since Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad, or if we dare even go back a little further, one of the Fab Four.
In an all-out, action-packed fight that I don't know if anybody that watched it wasn't as, impressed with the action that they saw, really isn't a boxing fan. And I'm talking about Leo Santa Cruz's victory over Abner Mares. Loved every minute of it except for Mario Ronaldo's voice, which it just makes me sick. But what's your thoughts on that fight?
When Abner Mares or Leo Santa Cruz are in the ring, you're going to get a good fight. I don't care who it's against. I liked early on, Abner Mares was pushing Leo Santa Cruz. He was on the inside. He was working. Leo Santa Cruz, come about the midway point, he was able to get his distance, use his jab, build up points. So those guys are exciting no matter, who they're in there against. So that was definitely fight of the weekend. Abner Mares is definitely still a top 10, top 5 fighter in that division, in my opinion. Leo Santa Cruz, he's kind of figured out a little bit. Leo Santa Cruz, you mentioned all the time about the hand. Leo Santa Cruz, he seems to have, this hard time, getting going. It takes him 3-4 rounds. The only viable fight really, or the best fight in that division left for him is going to be against Gary Russell. And, Russell, the WBC title holder, are they kind of mandated to fight each other now? Wasn't there some sort of diamond title on the line for these two guys?
They created the diamond title for that. But really, he's the all 100% WBA champ now.
Well, he's the super duper regular in the middle
right.
champion, of course. But that diamond title usually is some sort of hint that the WBC regular champion, or however they want to put theirs, and that guy is going to have a fight next. That would actually be a very exciting fight. It would be the explosiveness and speed of an early Gary Russell against the volume of a Leo Santa Cruz. So that's something right there that I'm looking forward to, and hopefully due to the politics, due to location, that fight isn't drug out, because once that fight happens, we would generally have the top man in that division, and slowly that would just be one more division that kind of gets unified and business is settled.
Were you unimpressed with Charlo as I was, or is it just me?
I'm always unimpressed with Charlo.
I know.
I'm not impressed by the Charlo brothers. Not that I dislike the Charlo brothers, Bill. It's just that the Charlo brothers are guys that I believe are decent fighters. They're not very good fighters. They're better than average, but they're not the lions that they talk about, this whole team lion. They talk a little bit too much, and their performances don't really follow through. If not for the size of the Charlos, they would already have been yesterday's news. And I genuinely believe that. I have noticed something that, in that fight about Charlo is, he complains a lot. In that fight, did you notice that, at the one point in time where he's complaining about getting hit in the back of the head, and then you watch the replay, and it was nowhere near the back of the head. And another thing I noticed about Charlo is anytime he gets hit, do you see that Charlo freezes? And this isn't the first time I noticed that. Anytime Charlo gets hit, and Austin Trout, not a big hitter, a big puncher, you notice that Charlo freezes, and he's really unsure about how he should react, and he's not a very good counter puncher.
The thing I notice about the Charlo brothers, and I always refer to them as refer to them together, is that they're very limited with their skill set. Yes, they have punching power, and when they attack and let their hands go. But between those points are far and few between. Like, it just seems like they're not in attack mode enough. They were showing an interesting stat with his new trainer. He was throwing less punches or something, but he was more accurate. I mean, the bottom line is it boils down to what we're always saying, that, fighters need to be tested early on to help them improve. When they're fighting and getting by with just, the bare minimum or just athleticism early in their career, and then all of a sudden they're crowned a champion, that doesn't mean they're really all set. And I think both Charlo brothers, specifically Jermell from Saturday night, is a great example of that. He did not look impressive. And for Austin Trout, which I didn't agree with the one scorecard, but with Austin Trout, even making it close, where they ruled, what did they rule? At least two knockdowns. Was there three in that fight? I mean, he hit the deck several times. That was ruled a knockdown. So I don't know.
If you notice in that fight too, and I've seen this in the past with Charlo, but the first knockdown, it was a genuine knockdown, but Austin Trout and Charlo were very close, so Austin Trout really had no room to take a step back and try and regain his balance. There was a few times where Austin Trout almost went down, but he didn't. But that second knockdown that they called, Charlo's foot was actually behind Austin Trout, so Austin Trout tripped. He did get hit with that punch as he was going down, but Austin Trout was already in motion. Charlo, the reason why you mentioned how they say he's throwing fewer punches and they're trying to make him more accurate. That's because, again, I stressed, Charlo is not a very solid boxer. He's a decent boxer, but not very solid. If you look at, they were stressing about his last couple fights and these KOs. He knocked out Erickson Lubin and Charles Hatley. Both were very well-planned and well-thought-out opponents who looked good on paper. Now, remember, Charles Hatley was knocked out in a single round by Leonardo Tyler. Leonardo Tyler is very much like Badu Jack, a guy that if you sleep on him, he's going to catch you. But he's not even, Badu Jack in his fight against Derek Edwards. But he's not even at the level of Derek Edwards. And Leonardo Tyler is a career welterweight. Erickson Lubin was never tested by a journeyman, even at the level of Leonardo Tyler. He looks good on paper, but he's not a very good. That's it. He looked good on paper. He's a young fighter who had never been tested. And both of those guys are a lot smaller than Charlo was. Austin Trout made Charlo look foolish at times. Charlo was swinging wide. Trout was seeing his punches come from a mile away. And afterwards, the most amusing thing to me, even more amusing than the Tyson Fury fight, was in that post-fight when they asked him, who is going to win between you and Jarrett Hurd? And after he stutters, Trout says, ask Austin Trout. He'll tell you who's going to win. And Austin Trout just kind of, when they asked him, he just kind of rolled his head or rolled his eyes, however you want to say it, because Charlo is not going to go out there and beat Jarrett Hurd. He's not going to go out there and he's not going to beat Jaime Muniga. And when he faces another fighter his size that can take his power and that can box, I'm telling you now, that Charlo is going to be the guy who's on the receiving end of that highlight reel KO instead of the guy who's delivering it, because he's running out of Charles Hatley's. He's running out of guys like Austin Trout. He's running out of opponents that he's bigger than and he can overpower, and he's running out of opponents that cannot box. So within his next 2 or 3 fights, unless they really, really, really dig to the bottom of the pile, you watch and see that Charlo is going to be yesterday's news, and his brother is going to be the guy they focus on, and he's going to be the one wearing the ridiculously stupid costumes into the ring. And the first time that he steps in there against the big middleweight, like a Danny Jacobs, I have a feeling he's going to end up the same way.
I agree. And the other thing, too, is that these guys, you talk about Hurd. Hurd, the thing with him is he's got pop and he can take a punch. These guys, personally, if Austin Trout was an Austin Trout of 5 years ago, he would have beat both of the Charlo brothers, I think. He was doing very well against Hurd until he ran out of gas and couldn't handle the punching power. So, listen, it's all about experience. And these guys are rushed to title fights. They're handed titles. When you have these sanctioning bodies like the IBF, anyway, Dax, I appreciate.
A lot of people just stress something, Bill, Sal. A lot of fans don't realize exactly how big sometimes fighters are. Austin Trout, the first time I met him is when he was going to face Miguel Cotto, and I was shocked at how big Austin Trout was compared to Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto, we know, started out as a 140-pound fighter, but that was for the 154-pound title. That was the WBA regular belt, I believe it was at the time. But when I met them and they were standing side by side, and I'm standing next to Austin Trout, just his physical size and mass compared to Miguel Cotto was massive. Now, of course, they weren't, the 154 pounds that they were, for fight night. But, he was at his walking around weight, and it looked literally like a 2 and 3 weight division difference between the two of them. And now when you look at the size of an Austin Trout next to a Charlo or next to a Hurd, that shows you exactly how big these guys are. These Charlos and Hurds, these are guys that walk around as cruiserweights, maybe even, a 200, 210-pound guy when they're not inside that ring. So, this is the size advantage they have on these nights.
Exactly.
And that is why they're so dominant. But, as you stated, when they get in there against somebody else who has that same advantage, who is able to take a punch and is able to deliver, that type of punishment, all of a sudden the game is going to change drastically for them. And the Charlos are going to be, they'll be done, they'll be gone, they'll be yesterday's news. And I can't wait. You talk about Tyson Fury and his WWE antics. Look what Charlo wore into the ring the other night. And the other one looked like he was a pimp.
I know. Dax, I appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to you next time. All right, my man?
All right, everybody, enjoy the day.
That was Dax Kahn giving us his thoughts, and basically he's agreeing, I think he agreed with us. But anyway, yeah, Sal, it's getting hard. I'm getting very frustrated with the sport and the antics, and I think what bothers me more, it's okay to have a comical guy every now and then and see the antics and stuff. I'm okay with that. It's when it happens over and over and over, and when it happens when guys aren't backing up all this stuff, but I think what makes it worse, for me anyway, Sal, is that the fans accept it. And that's disheartening for me, because that ruins what I look at with this sport of boxing.
Well, maybe the benchmark has been lowered. I'm not sure. It's different, Bill. It's a different era, different generation, different set of fighters, different class of sportsmen, and it's a different game right now. We do see remnants of the great days of past, and hopefully we'll sustain a level of interest, and the fighters will sustain a level of competition that will keep the fans coming back, and we'll go through it. We've seen a great resurgence in boxing over the last 2 years, and some of these fights are very, very exciting, and so we got to take a little bit of the fill in the blanks kind of thing, and while we get fed to some more of the steady diet of what we anticipate to be satisfying. It's just a matter of time, and hopefully we'll get some.
Yeah, well, we've witnessed the charade known as Canelo Triple G, and we've seen Oscar De La Hoya, the fishnet wearing Oscar De La Hoya, turn the tables and actually make Triple G look like the bad guy. We have people that are trying to convince me that Triple G is not a draw and he doesn't deserve the split that he wanted. We have Canelo's team acting like he's the sport of boxing. We got Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua talking like they're going to fight each other when we know damn well they're not going to fight each other, at least next. And I don't think that the fight will happen this year at all. Hopefully I'm wrong. You got the Charlo brothers not fighting anybody, pounding on their chest. And then you get the rare, real fighters that get stuck on some streaming network. Terence Crawford. Let me tell you, if I'm Terence Crawford, the first guy I would have punched after that fight is Bob Arum, 86 years old and everything, because Bob Arum is the guy taking money out of Terence Crawford's pocket. He's the guy that is preventing Terence Crawford from making the money that he should be making. When you perform the way Terence Crawford did on Saturday night, and quite frankly, the way Terence Crawford has done for his whole career, bucking the odds and everything else, and still to be a secondary draw, that's sad. Okay, it's sad in the sport of boxing that a guy like Terence Crawford, who's actually a mean guy in the ring, but somewhat soft-spoken outside the ring, doesn't get the attention that a big baby Huey slug like Tyson Fury got for his shenanigans in the ring. And then I got people that are trying to stick up for him, saying that, he deserves it because he beat Klitschko. He beat Klitschko 4 years ago. And that was his only really good fight on his resume. And this is coming from a guy that was a huge Tyson Fury fan. Tyson Fury was on this show a couple of times. I followed Tyson Fury from his second pro fight. So I don't even want to hear that I'm bashing the guy for no reason. I'm bashing him because he's talking smack and not backing it up. Hold that thought. I got an email to read. We will be back, at least for this show, in about 2 minutes.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604. Listen to
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And I tell you something, Sal. It's very nerve-wracking. And a lot of people, because of the internet, and everybody thinks they can do a show like this, and it's not easy. All right, I mean, to do it the right way, You got to prepare. I get up at 4 in the morning. I write the show. I've been doing it all these years, et cetera, et cetera. And it's very disheartening to see a generation of fans coming in, buying into all the BS that we're fed, and then actually criticizing people like me, all right? And, I know, I don't kiss anybody's ass, and I'll never win an award of any kind or anything, and I really don't care. I'm not doing it for anything like that. Titles and all of that mean nothing to me. I always have felt, just like the sport of boxing, that your performances speak for themselves. You perform well and you'll get the accolades. I was never a huge fan of Larry Holmes or Lennox Lewis. Both of these guys were great fighters, Hall of Famers. I respect them both now because I've had a chance to really dissect their careers. But Larry Holmes and Lennox Lewis, both, every chance they got, look into the mic. I get no respect. Oh, nobody's giving me. Well, yeah, because you're crying like a baby. I follow the trail of tears. It's easy. This sport, the one easy part about this sport, Sal, and I know it takes a lot of hard work, dedication, heart, and everything to be a fighter and maintain a successful career as a fighter. But the hardest thing is to really perform. I mean, it's easy to perform and get the credit. All you got to do is perform. You don't have to coax people into giving it to you, right? I mean, am I right or wrong?
No, well, that's just it. Like I always say, you're only as good as your last fight. But that's your signature. That's your calling card. That's your audition. You're out there in front of fans and you're putting on a performance. And I'll tell you what. You're going to want to try and rise to the occasion, do your best and be explosive and do your best and fight to win and show you got the heart, show you got the skills, show you got the pop, the punch, and the boxing ability. That's what I'm saying. You're building your resume. You're building your credibility. You're selling yourself. And when you do it, you don't do it with your mouth and all this, what you're going to do, and I can do this and that and everything else. You prove it with your fists and your mental and physical mettle, your makeup and your character, and you sell it to us on that level with all your attributes that you could push and excel and to sell to us, the fans.
They're talking in the in one of the chat rooms. Obviously, people want to see welterweights now. Errol Spence Jr. is a top welterweight. This guy,
yes,
what's his name?
Is.
What's his name? I keep forgetting. Keith something or other. He used to fight. I don't even know if he's still. Oh, that's right, Keith Thurman.
He hurt his elbow or something.
He stubbed his toe. He broke a fingernail. I don't know, but
it's been a while since we've seen him. When was the last time we saw him?
He's a fraud too. I mean, but if these guys all dance together, don't be surprised if Terence Crawford ends up being the guy who rises to the top between Errol Spence and Keith Thurman. I mean, we all like the great Bill Parcells says, you're only as good as your record says you are. And I got news for you. When you dissect the resumes of those top three welterweights, and I'm referring to Keith Thurman, Errol Spence Jr., and now Terence Crawford. I think Terence Crawford has the toughest resume of them. He may not have some of the more known names on his resume, like like some of the other fighters do, like a Sean Porter type of a name. But the guys that he did fight in the junior welterweight division were all tops. And the way he fights, Sal, wouldn't shock me, man.
No, it wouldn't shock me either. And I think I'll tell you what, I would love to see, and I don't know when we will, but I'd love to see Keith Thurman get back in the ring and see what he could put on as far as selling us again his being a title holder and credibility. But the fight that's looming out there, we're talking about it. It's been mentioned. And I don't know if it's a 50-50 fight or what, but can you imagine if Terence Crawford and Errol Spence get in a ring, what kind of fight we're going to be fed right there? That's unbelievable.
Well, here's the thing, and they're talking about it now. You know,
I know,
yeah, my man Jason's also reminded me about Kell Brook. Don't forget about Kell Brook. But you know, the thing about Errol Spence is he doesn't really have the resume either yet, though, Sal. He really doesn't. I mean, when you really look at his resume, it's not too impressive, you know. And he's fighting a mandatory this weekend. I think it's this weekend against Carlos Ocampo. And this is what's got me all riled up. The IBF with the mandatories. I got an email to read, and this is going to get me going because it's from my man Mitch. He says, you know, for all the fans in hindsight who are saying that Triple G should fight Deverenchenko or should have fought Deverenchenko in May, and who are now saying that Triple G was scared of him, make sure they say the same thing to the other fighters. He says the IBF rankings mean first up for Deverenchenko is, now this is following the IBF who stripped Triple G after they accepted a $20,000 check from Triple G to let him fight a mandatory defense. Now they strip him because they allegedly believed that he wasn't going to fight Canelo, which they approved. And now those negotiations are being discussed again. So now the IBF looks like a bunch of thieving bastards, if you want me to be honest. But he says the IBF rankings mean first up for Deverenchenko is, according to the IBF rankings, Daniel Jacobs. And then Mitch says, well, I bet he won't take that fight, Jacobs. And the reason isn't because he's scared of Deverenchenko. It's because who the hell is Deverenchenko? You're not going to be able to make money. Just like they were talking before about Tyson Fury fighting Luis Ortiz in the other chat room. They say, well, Tyson Fury can't make enough money. Well, hey, listen, hey, Sal, when they say it's not about the money, what does it mean?
Please, it's about the money.
Exactly. He says the second guy that's on the IBF rankings, Charlo, he moved up to win the belt, so he should take it, but I bet he won't. He says, and the third guy, Demetrius Andrade, he may take it, but he also may price himself too high. And that's typically what happens to Demetrius Andrade's team. Joe DeGuardia of Star Boxing and Banner Promotions, Artie Puello, they both overprice their fighter. That's why we never see him fight. He says, so if none of these guys fight him for the vacant title, I want the same folks, this is Mitch, I want the same folks to say they are scared of Deverenchenko, just like they're saying Triple G was. You asked an interesting question the other day. You said, so if Triple G and Alvarez reach a deal, which they may indeed do so now that talks resumed, how stupid will the IBF feel for jumping the gun? Here's the problem that Mitch has. He says if Triple G's intent wasn't to fight Deverenchenko, why give the IBF the $20,000 in the first place? He had until August to make a decision. You know, I agree with that, Sal.
Yeah, I do.
If you're not going to fight the guy, why cough up 20 bananas? I mean, the truth of the matter is the IBF took the money and run. They actually robbed Triple G. And this is an organization, this is a sanctioning body that people put value in their titles. You know, this is the problem. This is why I'm so jacked up and becoming I'm losing my interest in this sport because of moves like this. And then there's actually people who justify it. He says, anyway, I think his plan late in his career was to take a money fight, meaning Triple G, a real fight for the money. No MMA BS. Who hasn't done that? They have $20,000 in good faith, and Triple G's team got shafted. Yet Elder Alvarez became a multi-millionaire, earning step-aside money from Adonis Stevenson. Adonis Stevenson, a guy who hadn't fought his mandatory in over 5 years, which is true, and he hasn't even gotten stripped. So, thanks for the email. So, I mean, these are the kinds of shenanigans, Sal, that are ruining the sport, but worse, the fans accept it. So if it ain't broke, then nobody's gonna walk away from cash cows. As long as the fans accept it, it's gonna continue. So get used to it, is what I say.
Well, I think you got a point there, and you're right. They're not going to change anything, and it's not broken. Nobody's given an outcry of things to be changed, and you know it'll continue as par. You know, it'll be it, and it's a new world. It's a new order in boxing. Who knows?
It's a shame. It's a shame. And, you got the Canelo Triple G charade. You got the Charlo brothers pounding the chest. You got Tyson Fury saying he can beat Deontay or AJ with one hand behind his back. Then he goes and puts on a Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey circus performance. There was a better fight that broke out with 15, 16 people in the stands than what was taking place in the ring. It's a joke, And then you see a fighter like Terence Crawford, whose promoter sticks him on some unknown network so that the masses can't even see him. And they have to wait till the next day for all the replays and illegal streams, all of that. I mean, come on. And I'll be honest, that's how I watched it. I didn't want to watch it on ESPN Plus, and I hope that the numbers weren't that great. But once again, Terence Crawford is the guy who's getting screwed. Bob Arum. Talk about taking advantage of a fighter. I don't know if there's been a fighter as talented as Terence Crawford in the history of the sport that has been taken advantage of by his promoter as much as Terence Crawford has been by Bob Arum, or unless you want to sprinkle in Demetrius Andrade with his two promoters, with all the hands in it. And then you could even sprinkle in Deontay Wilder, because that guy has to go around telling people he wants to kill somebody in the ring before anybody will listen to him. I can keep going, Sal. I can keep going. I mean, it's sad. It's sad, and all these fans are buying into it. I just don't understand it. I don't understand. And I say this all the time. And no disrespect to you because you fought in this era. But if you would have come up to me and said in 1983 or 1985, hey, Bill, you think you're witnessing the last great era of boxing? I would have laughed my ass off. I would have said, these guys, Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns and these guys, you think they're great? How about the guys in the 40s and the guys in the 30s? I would have never in a million years thought boxing would have sunk as low as it has to suggest, and I'm not, in hindsight, obviously those guys, Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagel, Roberto Duran, et cetera, were all extremely great fighters, and I wish we had them today. But my point was that I would have never thought in a million years that would have been the last great era, to go all these years, 30 years, longing for an era like that again. I mean, that is kind of sad, Sal.
Well, it is. And like I said, I was just glad to be a part of it. But, it's a different mindset, different mentality, different marketing, and different rules and regulations in place. It was more of a playing field that you could understand, and there was less sanctioning bodies. I mean, when I turned pro, it was just the WBA, WBC, and then they sprung up the IBF, which the IBF leveraged itself very brilliantly into the mix, and it was nice. Everything came about well, and you recognize it. It built its credibility very fast, and I'll tell you what, it was all still manageable. And then I think the WBO came in, and this one, that one, even there it had some nice things. But forget about it. After the late '80s and '90s, we definitely overshot what we were hoping to get hit as a target.
The thing about you're saying a couple of titles here and there. Boxing, the powers that be realized that the titles were starting to ruin the sport. So what do? We say, okay, let's look at the linear. That's when the whole talk of the linear title came back in. I know. It was no, listen. That's when it came back into the picture. And I'm talking 10 years ago, okay? Everybody started saying, okay, well, there's so many belts. Who's the real champions? Well, let's go linear. Let's go all the way back to the first gloved era champions, and the guy who beat the guy in the ring is the linear champ. And we were able to follow it all the way. And thankfully, the ring belt, the Ring Magazine belt, was also synonymous with that linear champ. That all changed when Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy bought the Ring Magazine. Now we don't even have that anymore. So for people to suggest that the linear championship holds some value now, you throw that one out the window too. Every time boxing tries to reboot itself, to gain respect and legitimacy, something else comes along to shoot it in the foot. And, it's a shame because right now, from an athletic standpoint, our fighters today, just like all of our athletes in every sport, are better than they ever were from years gone by. All right? If the fighters today fought the real fights and were moved and brought up the way they were in the 40s and 50s and 60s and even into the 80s, we would be talking about living through a great era. If you had guys like the Charlo brothers and Keith Thurman and Terence Crawford and all these guys that, Vasily Lomachenko, all these top fighters that we talk about, fighting their way up, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, fighting their way up and being tested early on, 6th, 8th, 10th fight, and still remain where they are today, we would be talking some real good things about the sport of boxing. But because they coddle their fighters, because they handpick and their opponents and cherry pick after they're a title, and it's all about the money, we end up with what we got today. So you're going to put these kinds of guys. What's going to happen? The Hall of Fame induction weekend just took place this past weekend.
Yeah.
All right. What's going to happen 20 years from now? Who's going to go in the Hall of Fame? How are we going to judge a Hall of Famer? When a guy like Marlon Starling isn't even in the Hall of Fame, and he fought in the 80s, fought everybody, and he's not in the Hall of Fame because he's not paying off Brophy. How are you going to judge it? How are you going to judge these guys that have a good resume and who didn't fight anybody? You guys have heard me talk negatively about Floyd Mayweather for years. The truth of the matter is, I don't like him. But that doesn't mean he didn't beat some good fighters. All right? I question his choice of when he fought them and his other options at the time. But the resume will speak for itself. He fought a lot of former champions or champions and won. You could say what you want about him. I certainly do every chance I get. He was a cherry picker. He was bad for the sport, all these things. But at the end of the day, at least he's going to have one thing going for him at the end in 5 years when he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, is he's going to have a resume that's going to look good for future generations. There's a lot of fighters out there today that are not going to be able to do that. This kid, Jermell Charlo, who just fought recently, he's talking about continuing his knockout streak, and it failed. He said he was going to knock out Austin Trout. Charles Hatley, I mean, when you look at him, yeah, he was undefeated, but go take a look at his record before he fought Charlo. It was his first test fight. You can't judge a fighter just by the O. You can't do it. No. Sal, it's sickening. It's sickening. We're not doing a show tomorrow, and I'll tell you, it's sad. What I want to hear by the time we come back on Wednesday, I want to hear that Triple G Canelo is signed, sealed, and delivered. I want to hear some kind of talk had resumed with AJ and Deontay. Maybe they're going to finally admit to us that the plan was to fight at the end of the year or beginning of next year all along. Just give it to us, man. Don't drag it on. I don't want to hear any more BS from Bob Arum. Bob Arum, he's... If I'm Terence Crawford, I'd get away from Bob Arum. And Bob Arum and Don King, two guys at the top of their craft for a half a century, it's time to step aside, all right? It's time. Don has already done it, and it's time for Bob Arum to step aside. We need some... I don't even know, though. I don't even know if that's even worse, Sal, because, they're the last breath of fresh air from the way things used to be. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. I really am. And that's rare for a big mouth like me.
Well, I'll tell you, I was going to say, I didn't want to call you big mouth, but you being lost for words, that's synonymous to hearing it from me as far as the end result. I don't know, Bill. We just got to, hope and pray that, we get to see the continuity of some fine boxing as we have the last 2 years. I think this will all pan out. Like I said, I think Canelo, Triple G will be announced, and I know we're losing faith in the dates or the opportunities that Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua will give the fight fans. But let's not go in the towel so to speak, just yet. No pun intended.
Well, let me ask you this. If the fighters are willing to fight anybody and yet their management doesn't let them, or we hear the canned phrase, hey, so-and-so, you just won this fight. Who you want next? Oh, whoever they put in front of me. I just do the fighting. I just do the fighting. My promoter and the manager, they do. So that's their scapegoat. That's their way out. That's their way of when they fight that puff cake, that cream puff of a fight, next fight. Well, it wasn't me. I wanted the baddest guy on the planet. Instead, they gave me this cream puff. Hey, come on, man. You need the right dance. The great fighters need the dance partners. We got the dance partners at the stadium. They're just not dancing with each other, and that's the problem. That's the problem. Anyway.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. That's why I loved what I heard coming out of Leo Santa Cruz's mouth after the fight. They say, well, how do you feel about fighting this guy? They go, oh, bring them all on. I don't care. I'll fight everybody. I don't care. I'm the best. I'm going to fight anybody. I don't care what I got to do.
Well, Leo Santa Cruz, this is the same guy, Leo Santa Cruz, apologizing with all sincerity after a fight that he doesn't knock his opponents. I want to apologize to my fans for my performance.
He's a rare breed. We need more Leo Santa Cruzes.
You say, why are you apologizing, Leo? You won the fight. Well, because I didn't knock him out. All these fans paid good money to get here to watch me knock him out, and I couldn't knock him out. So he's apologizing to the fans. I love it. But anyway.
And Abner Maris, too. Abner Maris says, hey, we're here for you guys. We fight for the fans. Now, I thought that was a little overboard. You fight for yourself, too. You fight to win. I get it. But for him to put on, like I'm saying, you look at those two guys. That's what boxing needs, that kind of mindset, that kind of mentality. We're here for the fans. We want to fight. Oh, I don't care who I fight. I'll fight anybody.
Well, thank God.
That's refreshing to hear from world-class fighters.
Thank God for Mexican fighters, because that's their mentality. The Mexican fighters and the Filipino fighters fight like that. That's the way they want to be. That's the way they fight. And it's sad to me as an American to see that the majority of the American fighters are always the ones that are ducking and dancing and duking and doing all this stuff because they're the ones that seem not to make the fights that we want to see. The Europeans and like I mentioned, the Philippine fighters and also the Mexican fighters, they're always willing to fight no matter who's in front of them. And unfortunately, there's not enough of them to carry the sport. But our trivia question, the winner of this the first one to email me the correct answer, will win their very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game, the same game that Alex Papali uses for our Blast from the Past segment. And this week's Blast from the Past will feature Vitaly Klitschko, which we were trying to do last week before his induction into the International Boxing Hall of Fame this past weekend. So we'll be talking about Vitaly with Klitschko, that one, the older brother, on Wednesday. What is the biggest height difference between two men in the same division fighting for a world title, excluding, that means not counting, boys and girls, the heavyweights? What is the biggest height difference between two men in the same division for a title fight, excluding the heavyweights? If you're the first one to email me the correct answer, and I'm looking for the names of the fighters in addition to the height difference. If you are the first one to email me the correct answer, Billy at Talkin' Boxing, that's TalkinBoxing.com, you'll win your very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. So what's the biggest height difference between two fighters in the same division fighting for a world title, excluding heavyweights? Email me, Billy at Talkin' Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com. On this day in boxing history, June 11th, this guy is almost a forgotten fighter, but on this day in 1932, Marcel Thill wins the world middleweight title via an 11th round disqualification over Gorilla Jones, and that fight took place in Paris. That's Paris for you Americans. On this day in 2000, Takanori Hakayama knocks out Gilberto Serrano to win the WBA lightweight title. Took place in Tokyo. On this day in 1992, Rodolfo Blanco wins a 12-round decision over Dave McCauley to win the IBF flyweight title. It took place in Spain. On this day in 1982, Wilfredo Bazooka Gomez stops Juan Antonio Lopez in the 10th round to retain his WBC World Super Bantamweight title. It took place in Las Vegas. On this day in 1982, I mentioned him earlier in this show, Larry Holmes stops Jerry Cooney in the 13th round to retain his WBC World Heavyweight title, and that took place in Vegas. I remember that fight. There was so much hype surrounding that fight. Yeah. Jerry Cooney had the world behind him in that fight, and came up short against the great Larry Holmes, Hall of Fame Larry Holmes. And this fight was on closed-circuit television, which evolved into pay-per-view. So a little FYI. In 1982. Man, times have changed. And finally, on this day, June 11th, in 2005, one of the saddest days in boxing for me as a lifelong boxing fan, Kevin McBride knocks out Mike Tyson in the 6th round to improve to 33 wins, 4 losses, and 1 draw. This would be the last Mike Tyson fight. He was inducted into the International Hall of Fame in 2011. He had a career of 50 wins and 6 losses. And after this fight, Mike Tyson said, I'm retiring because if I can't, and he didn't mean it with disrespect, but he says, if I can't beat a Kevin McBride and I'm getting knocked out by a guy like him, I don't deserve to be in the ring. And true to his word, he never came back. So Mike Tyson, last fight of his career. Today, in credit to Kevin McBride. And I happen to have seen Kevin McBride get knocked out so bad that they carried him right past me in a stretcher. I think it was against Pulov. No, it was against Maurice Wach. That's right. It was at Foxwoods. Wow. So anyway. Hey, listen, boys and girls, that concludes our show for today and tomorrow. Because I got so frustrated today, I'm not going to do it tomorrow. I'm hoping for a lot of news to take place in the next 48 hours so that we can come back with a little life come Wednesday. Make sure you drop me an email if you have any questions, comments, or concerns to be part of the show. Billy at Talkin' Boxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. Make sure you tune in Wednesday morning, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.